In this video, I'm going to be going through the assignment which I posted at least in 2018 on the potassium Facebook group. So if you click on this page, it should take you to this link, and in this link here, if you click on the link there, you should get the assignment. Now, if the assignment does not say Year 12 2019 Engineering Civil Report Task 1, it is not the right one. Okay. Maybe I should have saved this PDF, but this is what we're running with. Okay, close. Okay. So, I don't really like the look of the new format, but this is what we've got, and I'm just going to do it because this is what I'm paid to do. Okay, all of this stuff should be obvious. This stuff will be repeated. It's worth 20%. When's it due? When's it due? You will be notified in your assessment notification in assessment period 1. Right, so I think it'll be week 9, but assessment period 1. I'm copying the what was on here when I started. I could have probably avoided a space there. Okay, task description: produce, test, and analyze a truss model. Groups of 2 students will compare experiment results. Produce an engineering report documenting the project's design, management, and analysis. Okay. Now, I've tried to write this as carefully as I can, so there might be some things that I'll want to amend in this recording, but this is what we're going with. Okay, the whole idea of what's this thing you're going to do, you're going to make a truss. You're going to test it, and then you're going to write about it. That's the first sentence. That's what it's explaining. You're not going to make a real truss, you're going to make a model. That should be apparent, though. Okay, groups of 2 students. Now, I have, in one exception, allowed a group of 3, but the default should be a group of 2. Will compare experiment results. Now what that means is, in the past what I did is I made each group have to design their two trusses and compare the results from member A to member B. What I'm going to do, because I've got the flexibility within the wording, is I'm going to say this is the most flexible, the most generous way I can interpret these words, is to say that groups have to compare results with other groups. So what I'd say is pair up with another group and compare the results from what you did to what someone else did. Does that make sense? We're all good. Okay. Now, you have to produce an engineering report documenting the project's design, management, and analysis. Okay, so there's 3 main areas. We can see design, management, and analysis. So you have to document those 3 things. Right? The idea is that I'm not going to mark these trusts. I'm only going to mark the documentation. Does that make sense? We're all okay with that? Yeah. Great. Okay. So the first part is the design requirements. Now you'll notice I've made these pretty vague, right? And most importantly, modifications may be allowed with written approval from the teacher. Just like if it was at a work environment, you're allowed to make modifications. We're allowed to agree with things. I'm not going to say, look, I'm sorry, the assignment says X, so you have to do X, even though Y would be a way more interesting experiment. No, I'm going to say if you can come up with a reason why we should do Y, yeah, fine, I'm happy with that. But make sure you get an email from me confirming that, because if you don't get an email confirming that from me, right, then you have a problem, because I'm going to say, man, it wasn't in the assignment, and you have nothing to come back on. Now, just as a little bit of, puns at trivia, yesterday I put in an expense claim, and we had to do something where we had to put in the wrong date in order to make the machine work. Now, the person who helped me organize that called up the powers that be on the phone, and she said that, look, it's not enough to call the powers that be on the phone. You have to actually make sure they send you an email confirming that, so that you don't get in trouble 5 years down the track for fraud, that you put down something. Make sure that you've got an email that says, I put it down this way because that's how I was told to do it by this person, and have that name. So the same thing applies here, right? If you're going to make a change, make sure you get me to sign off it. Get something in writing so that if I change my mind, you can say, yeah, but sir, you said this, and then I'll have no choice but to agree. Okay. Initially, I was going to use 3 mil balsa, and I was going to make it, all the members had to be 3 mil wide, so that we get, the cross section wants to be a square. Yeah, that's really important. So if we go 3 by 3, that's okay. If we go 7 by 7, that's okay. If we go 7 mil thick and then 3 mil wide, you end up getting a rectangular section, and that's not good. It makes it hard for us to work out things. It means we end up getting bidirectional forces. It's not a good situation. Now, I honestly have no idea how strong 7 mil ply is going to be. right? 7mm ply could be really strong. We're going to have to use stacks of weight. Plywood? Yeah, we're going to use plywood. We're going to laser cut it. Now, I was going to say, hey, if you want to use balsa, you can. And then I thought, nah, why give people an option, right? If you really want to make a modification, use balsa, email me. Otherwise, we're just all going to use 7mm ply. Now, I have one sheet of 7mm ply. We're all going to use that one sheet. Anything else? Otherwise, you have to provide that material yourself. Now, I'm not even claiming this back from school, right? This one I paid for out of my own money, right? So, you know, thank me anytime. Though I'm going to provide that material for you to use. Yeah. Okay, now, we're going to use the laser cutter. Now, there's a couple of reasons why we're going to use the laser cutter. The reason why we're going to use the laser cutter is because when we use balsa, we're not really testing your design. What we're testing is your construction. Yeah, we're testing how well you made it. And although that was an important part in the process in the past, these days I'd rather test something that is actually using our real skills. Also, what I want to see is I want to see you use CAD, right? So you have to use CAD when you use balsa, when you use the laser cutter. Sorry. So we're actually using CAD and CAM, computer-aided design, computer-aided drafting, computer-aided manufacture. Okay, so we've talked about that. Now, the truss should be designed with consideration to the size of the experiment apparatus. Now, you've all seen my truss breaker. I've shown you both the truss breakers I currently possess. If you want to use something else, right, you're going to have to think about how are you going to make sure it fits inside the truss breaker. If it doesn't fit in the truss breaker, you need to rethink your design. Yep?
I don't know what a truss breaker is.
I'll show it to you, but it's I've got two of them. Both of them involve plastic and something that you can hang a bucket on so that we can break the truss. Yep.
What's the size of the truss breaker?
That's something for you to investigate. Yeah, so you should look into that. That's part of you doing investigation as part of your assignment. Right? I would say anything that's 300 long and 200 tall will probably fit. And we could probably, because we've got two truss breaker options, but I would like them to be consistent with something else. So I would suggest partner up with another group and make sure your designs fit compared to each other so that way you can make it work. We all good? Okay. There's a lot there. Okay. Each student is to submit an individual report to the standard specified by the University of Wollongong. Right? A lot of you guys, we're in the catchment area for the University of Wollongong, so I think it's relevant. A lot of guys go on to go to UOW. Now, we're going to use the UOW guideline because it's just an easy one to follow. It's designed with engineering students in mind, and that's what we're going to use. The title should include, it should include a title page, a contents page. It should have numbered headings and subheadings. So it should have section 1, section 1.1. It should have a contents page. That means you should have numbered pages. It should have photos. It should have diagrams or sketches and appropriate referencing. So that's all important. Okay. The report must provide. Okay, so it must provide, and in the subject of design, it must provide an evaluation of design solutions. Now, in order to evaluate something, you have to have an idea of what your goals are. Now, I have stated down here what the goal is, right? Where did I say the goal? The goal is... Oh, here we go. The design goal is to produce a truss design with a high load to weight ratio. That would be what I'd say is your primary goal. Yeah? But if you wanted to take into account other considerations, other evaluation goals, so if you were other criteria for evaluations, how I should phrase that, then that's fine. If you want to say, look, we want to make something that's easy to assess. We want to make something that's easy to analyze. We want to make something that's easy to build. We want to make something that is going to be easy to store. Right? That's fine. They're all good comparisons. They're all good considerations. Right? What I'm suggesting is that is the primary goal. It's up to you to identify any secondary goals you might have. Right? Fitting in the truss breaker. That should definitely be a goal. Right? So an evaluation of design solutions. Now, I'm going to say this in the recording. I haven't stated it explicitly in the piece of paper. I'm going to jump around. Right? I'm going to jump one bit down here. I'm going to talk about report submission. The task is to be submitted electronically as a PDF via Moodle and as a hard copy in class. If your work is not uploaded by the due date, you will risk getting 0 marks for that task unless you follow the correct appeal procedure. A doctor's certificate is required for absences due to illness. I'd suggest that if you're ever sick, that 13 sick, I don't know what that number translates into, they will come to your house for free and give you a doctor's certificate. Just as a totally separate point, it's very hard for doctors to know whether or not you have gastro. Right? If you told them that you had to go to the toilet several times, it was loose motions, maybe even threw up, very, very hard for a doctor to know if you had gastro. I totally unrelated to any other point here. Just I thought a piece of information I thought was interesting. You'll be expected to comply with the standards of good scholarship outlined by the Board of Studies, which is now NESA. I should probably change that to NESA. I can't change it because it's already uploaded. Module, all your own work. All right, you're all familiar with all my own work? Okay, great. So I don't need to go into that. The point is here, if you plagiarize your work, there will be academic repercussions, right? Most likely you'll get an N award, right? You'll get 0 for this mark and you'll be have to redo it, this time not plagiarizing. Last year I had 2 people who were working together in a group and their work was strikingly similar, right? Now in the end we were able to negotiate that, how much of that was similar and what was reasonable, and luckily for them it wasn't I'm going to move on. Okay, so this is what I'm coming back to. That's why I jumped around to say that you're going to work in a group and you're going to do design solutions. Here's my rules. Photos, pictures, diagrams, sketches, you can use them, right? As long as someone in your group has produced that photo, diagram, sketch, or whatever, you can use them without any other concern, right? That's fine, totally reasonable. Someone does the sketch, you're allowed to use it. Now, if you're using a photo from the internet, you should attribute it. You should say, I got this photo from this source, right? I'm not super concerned about that as much as I am people copying large chunks of text. Now, anything in a table is fine. Anything that is in a table, you can copy between your group. If I see something copied between groups in a table, I will maybe be speaking to you, right? I'll maybe say, look, this is too similar, I'm not happy. But between your group, if you and your group member have got tables that look the same, that's fine. So what I would suggest is, if you're going to evaluate your design solutions, put as much of it as you can into a table. If you put it into a table, you can copy it. Or one person can copy that table into the other person's assignment. Now, evaluation, I would say you probably want to have pros and cons, and maybe you want to have interesting. I would suggest this is a good opportunity to include a photo or a diagram. Yeah? We good? Okay. I would suggest that you, I think it says down the bottom, you must evaluate at least 3. Right? You should have three things that you've evaluated. Once you've finished your design, you're going to do a scale drawing. Right? It needs to be dimensioned to AS 1100. Right? We've talked about where we can find those standards on the internet and then Facebook. Right? So that's important. Now, I'm going to rush through as we get, because I can see I'm running out of time here. So I'm going to try and move through quickly. Okay, document roles and responsibilities. I'd put that in a table. I would say, Adam is going to do these 3 things. Or, item 1, done by Adam. Item 2, done by Billy. Item 3, done by Adam. Item 4, done by Adam. That's what I would do. Because if I put it in a table, we could both use the same table. Documentation of your time and quality management. So you're going to say how you ensured that your construction and testing processes, that should say testing, I might have to change that. Construction and testing process, document how you did your work, right? Look, if you only did the construction process, this is what's online, so you could get away with it. I'm worried I'm going to run out of time, but I'm going to quickly identify these 3 points, and then we'll see. I might make a second video about the marking criteria. Okay, you need to calculate all internal forces. If you don't understand what that means, to calculate the internal forces of a truss, you need to see me. You need to calculate the axial stress. Stress equals force over area. Find the member with the highest force, divide by the cross-sectional area. The observed load to weight ratio. If you don't understand what that means, come and see me. Okay, here we've already talked about the report submission, and here I've got some considerations. Okay, basically I've put these things in here just to cover myself, right? You need to justify your choices. The construction and testing processes should be documented. It should consider if you matched your predictions. You should have a conclusion and an evaluation of your project. That's probably enough that I can do the rest in the next video.